It is 10 a.m. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Tennessee Titans have reportedly signed free agent defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day. The 28-year-old has 11 career sacks since coming into the league in 2018 and playing for the Rams, the Chargers, and the 49ers. The New Orleans Saints have signed former 49ers defensive end Chase Young on a one-year deal worth $13 million. Also, quarterback Joshua Dobbs has landed in San Francisco on a one-year deal worth $2.5 million. And free agent running back Alexander Mattinson has agreed to a deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. He joins a running back room that includes Zamir White. The men's NCAA tournament gets underway tonight with the first four. Wagner and Howard battle for the 16th seed in the West at 5:40. Colorado State and Virginia play for the 10th seed in the Midwest at 8:10. You can hear the Westwood One coverage of those games after 3HL at 6 right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What time was I here, Lucas? What time did I show up to work today?
Extenuating circumstances had you in earlier than usual. You think you can dupe me? No, you need to string this together. 3, 4 days, 5 days. Consistency is the key.
It doesn't matter. What time? Tell people.
Well, 9:32 or something?
9:35. 9:35. Give me my medal. Damn it. Good morning. Lovely to have you guys here. Extenuating circumstances. The circumstances don't matter. All that matters is that I beat your time that you demanded me here by 10 minutes this morning. So you can suck it.
You had somewhere to be this morning that allowed you to pop over here a little earlier than usual. Let's make it consistent, and then we'll talk.
Okay. 615-737-1045 is the number. You can jump in there if you like. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can live stream the show there. If you so choose, you have a chat to interact with us. We'll get to the F&M Bank chat comments in just a moment. We have a little bit of news to start the show, as a matter of fact. We have a signing. The Tennessee Titans adding Sebastian Joseph Day, a defensive lineman. Journeyman defensive lineman Jason McCourty, Titans legend, breaking the news. Is he on television right now? No, Good Morning Football is off. Aren't they moving from New York to Los Angeles? Isn't the whole thing? It doesn't matter. Jason McCourty broke the news this morning, so you have a new defensive lineman. They are going to continue to need reinforcements because right now the defense is a shell of itself. And while it is a good signing because you need depth, he's probably more, he's started in a variety of different places. And last year with the Chargers, he was...
And the 49ers.
And the 49ers. He was effective to an extent. Let's see, about a little over 500 total defensive snaps. Had 3 sacks, 21 run stops, 24 tackles, 7 quarterback hits, 25 total pressures. So, okay.
Experience playing next to a guy that's going to dominate most of the attention on the defensive line.
Aaron Donald. And the Niners certainly understand defensive line rotations, but that's been a disappointing, or that's a group coming off a disappointing year in total.
He only appeared in 2 games for San Francisco.
So with what we have now, you still need frontline players. Now, he's probably going to have to start for you given the state of your defensive line. And there's still time for the draft, but Chase Young, who was scheduled to take a visit here and who there was all kinds of misinformation because you asked me yesterday if Chase Young was scheduled to visit the Titans. I said, no, he's in New Orleans today. And then, of course, he didn't make it out of New Orleans because he signed a 1-year, $13 million fully guaranteed deal. Not bad money for a player that's underwhelmed since being the 2nd overall pick out of Ohio State a couple of years ago. But there was all kinds of misinformation from a bunch of Titans internet accounts that were saying, I saw Happy Chase Young Day for Titans fans. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's thousands of miles away. Calm down. But he doesn't end up landing here. And it kind of falls in line with what's been a trend through the first week. It's not quite a week since free agency has begun. But they have been interested in a variety of different players that they just haven't been able to either meet with because they've signed with teams that they've met with previously, or they've had some people in the building that they haven't been able to keep and who have signed elsewhere.
Like Jerome Baker.
Who made a visit, left Nashville, went to Seattle, didn't make it out of Seattle. Signed with Mike McDonald's Seattle Seahawks the very next day. So, Jack Shepard says New Orleans is 500 miles away. Let's not get bogged down, Jack. Relax.
Joseph Day turns 29 in 2 days on Thursday.
You want to wish him a happy birthday?
We'll do it on Thursday.
Okay.
If we remember.
We won't. So you need to continue to add these reinforcements, but that they made a signing to go along with Chidobe Awuzie and Kenneth Murray is important. They need to continue to fortify this defense because this defense is problematic as currently constructed, but it's March the 19th. So, you don't need to get too bent out of shape. I was doing some Instagram Q&A this morning with A to Z, and I was asked, am I worried about the state of the defense? Or how bad is this defense going to be? I was like, I don't have any idea how bad the defense is going to be on March the 19th. I don't think you need to hand-wring too much just yet, but it's not inconsequential that they've been on a variety of different players. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who signed elsewhere. They were reported to be interested in Justin Simmons, the former Broncos safety. To my knowledge, he hasn't signed anywhere yet.
Still a free agent.
Checking in on that this morning as well. No movement there. You can go through the list of DJ Reader, variety of different players, Eric Armstead, that they have wanted to sign or at least meet with and haven't gotten the opportunity to seal the deal. There's plenty more players out there. And just because they're not top of line or the most recognizable names, how many average NFL fans do you think is familiar with the work of Sebastian Joseph Day? I'd say probably 30%, if not less.
Yeah, and if anything, for playing next to Aaron Donald.
Yes.
Now, remember, Diana did say 6 days ago that the Titans are targeting Justin Simmons. Everything's been quiet on the Justin Simmons front. Wonder if he's taking his time, knowing he can be selective in this, or maybe the market has not played out for him the way he maybe assumed it would as
possible.
A 30-year-old safety.
And, the Snead stuff is not completely dead, though it's very, very cold at this particular point in time. So it's not like everything is over. It's really just started, and free agency is all year long. So you're going to continue to add players throughout the course of the spring, into the summer. Titans will report earlier than most teams because they are a team that hired a new head coach, so it will allow them to begin their organized team activities and voluntary stuff at an earlier date than they might otherwise have. I think that there is reason to be skeptical of the defense. I was skeptical of the defense last year, just based on what we were seeing in the early part of the season, and that bore itself out to be so. We can't predict injuries and things like that, but of course those have to be accounted for in some form or fashion. And if you want a philosophical shift, well, this is what it looks like, kids. You're prioritizing your offense now, and you can't get too butthurt about defense not being quite up to par, given that that's what's been your bread and butter, defense in a running game, for the last, basically for your entire existence as a franchise. Defense in a running game has been what the Tennessee Titans have been most famous for. But now we're moving into a different era of Titans football, and they've clearly shown you what they care about more than the other side. And it's not like it's not for a lack of effort. They've scheduled meetings with these dudes. They just haven't been able to meet with all of them before they've signed deals. Of the top 100 free agents, 60 have signed, maybe. So you're still talking about a huge pool of players to be able to pull from. I'm just not interested. I think I would have liked to seen them add Chase Young. Chase Young is better than Weaver. Chase Young is better than Key. I know there are effort concerns there, but okay, if 100% of Arden Key is 75% of Chase Young, I'd probably take Chase Young and deal with the effort issues.
He's a good football player, and you need good football players.
You have precious few just in total on your roster. And as I believe Lucas emphasized yesterday, and as we've been telling you for months, you guys, this is a terrible football team in the last couple of years. John Robinson's drafts have put them in a hole. It's going to take more than one spring to dig yourself out of it. Sure as hell, it's going to take more than 1 week. So I think that is just something to keep in mind as they continue to work through this. And right now, TBD. I feel weird asking, like, how do we feel about the Titans heading into next season when so much of the work is yet to be done? But I don't know. Like, what would you consider a successful season for them coming up? For me, it's 8 wins. They win 8 games this year. Incremental progress. They look better as an offense. They're scoring more. They're keeping pace with the rest of the. They're keeping pace with the rest of the league.
Specifically with Will Levis.
Levis is as big a part of that as any. But, like, I don't know. I don't have a higher expectation for them than 8 games this year. 7 or 8 games. It's just so much to accomplish in a short period of time, and that they look like they have a draft class from last season that has some core foundational pieces that they can build upon, puts them a little ahead of schedule, to be honest with you. Because it's not like they didn't ever really bottom out. They've not been the worst team in football, even as unpleasant as they have been to watch and as frustrating as they've been to see in the last couple of seasons, last season and a half. But I don't know. I'm not looking at the Titans as winning the AFC South, even though the league does allow the opportunity for teams to go worst to first all the time. Maybe they do it, but that's not what my expectation is. My expectation is to get young talent, more speed on this football team, to allow the quarterback to develop, for you to go as he goes, and then probably in 2025, make meaningful moves like the Texans are to put you in a position to be a legit contender. I think that's a reasonable timeline. And I think it's easy for people to get ahead of themselves just because free agency is such an exciting time. You get caught up in the transactions. You see people spending money all over the place. You've spent quite a bit of money, and you still have more to spend. So patience is what I would preach at this particular point. And Sebastian Joseph Day is not a great player, but he's a solid player. And you need solid football players on your roster at this point. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. We will discuss a couple of different things throughout the course of the day. Lucas, for some reason, my grid has been wiped completely blank. Did you do that?
Mine too. Maybe I did on accident.
What are we going to talk about coming up next? Do you have any idea?
A little late on this, but Nick Saban was on Capitol Hill a week ago and had some comments that seemed to send people into a tizzy about the state of college football.
That's next. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help guys who are dealing with erectile dysfunction or weight loss. If that is something that you're interested in as well, they have you covered. They have been treating guys for ED and weight loss for over a decade. That's what they specialize in. They have been practicing these treatments all day, every day. ED is not something to freak out about, not something to be negative about. In fact, 50% of guys at some point deal with erectile dysfunction. They're here to help you. Their urologist-based practice with multiple providers has been focused on outcomes and treatments with the highest success rates. A lot of guys go in after pills and herbals have failed. They're there to help you without surgical solutions. They have multiple urologists and providers at their downtown Nashville location and in Cool Springs to take care of you. It's time to feel amazing and hit your goals this year. They understand how easy it is for you to schedule, book same or next day appointments, and they'll work through that process with you as well. Get treatment for ED knocked off the list early. They specialize in seeing guys who think they're out of luck, want to regain hope, and think that they can be successful in the bedroom and beyond. So call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or go online to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com and book an appointment today. What are we doing here?
What are you referring to?
You know what I'm referring to.
Oh, you do not? You hate this song?
No. I just...
All right. Buck Rising thinks Chris Brown's music sucks.
No, I think Chris Brown sucks. I like his music. Don't lay hands on Riri. That ain't it.
True.
3HL's music is so bad. All of the worst music that you put in there says 3HL. It's a hunk thing. I don't know what to do. I would just want to grab him by the shoulders and shake him and be like, just what is wrong with you? What do you listen to on a regular basis? I know you have a 4-hour commute back and forth every day, so maybe he's just out of music and he's just plugging random things in there. And also, it's your fault for just plugging random things in there as we come back from commercial break. But I never know what to do with the music. It throws me off.
We're only going to come back with music that has the 3HL tag on
it. It's so bad, all of it. I don't understand. Somebody needs to we need a purge. We need a purge of the entire music library.
The music is not bad.
Music's bad.
Look at me now.
I'm looking at Lil Bit, Florida, Georgia line. Line them up. Low Pass Lushes, Little Bitty, Alan Jackson. There are so many random... not good songs in here, and they're all labeled 3HL, and it's Hunk's fault. It's not 3HL's fault. It's Hunk's fault. He has terrible taste in music.
This is a not good song. This is a classic song.
That's fine. I would have been in better with that than the one that you got lazy and randomly threw in there because I don't know what you're doing back there, but you're not doing that.
We're coming back to nothing but 3HL music.
Oh, so bad.
The rest of the day.
God. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. We appreciate your participation. We will get to the phones here in just a second. Some comments also from the F&M Bank chat where you can interact on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Your microphone's on as you're answering the phone. Unbelievable. So, on YouTube, Wallace Dooley writes... because I was, I had set my expectations for the Titans. If you're just now joining us, welcome back. I'd set my expectations for the Titans moving into this season as about an 8-win football team, 7 or 8-win football team. Incremental improvement, show me something with the quarterback, score more than 17.5 points per game, and I'll take that as a sign of progress. If you go worst to first, the way that the Texans did last year, that'd be fun. That'd be interesting. That would be compelling. I don't have any real reason to kind of ground myself in that, but my expectations for the Titans are an average team as opposed to terrible, which is what they've been in the last 2 seasons.
Is that expectation or is that what we consider to be success in 2024?
I would consider average a success after, 13-21 in the last 2 years, and just mediocrity or worse than that on the offensive side of the football. I would take average, depending on how they look.
Like how they get to 8 games is just as big a part of whether or not the season will be a success. If they get to 8 games, despite Will Levis having a poor touchdown-to-interception ratio and not looking like he's made progress, but the defense plays better than expected, then that's not going to be very encouraging.
Not when you've just hired everything to be skewed offensively.
But if they get to 8 wins with Will Levis playing well and Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins forming a good duo and the defense playing below par as expected, if they're not able to continue to make signings there, then that's okay.
Correct. So, Wallace's criticism of my expectations. He writes, Buck is not a Titans fan, so he's always going to talk down about them. Was I talking down about them? I said that I had league average expectations for them. So he's always going to talk down about them. If I was an NFL player and I listened to Buck, why would I come play for the Titans if they're just not good as you say across the board? Well, because they have money. Because for the same reason that you would take a job that offered you more money, because money is the answer to all of your questions. This is how bad football teams get turned around. They overpay. They spend. They get back into the game with good to above average talent. They may have to pay a little more for it. And then they try to replenish the thing organically through the draft and become a good football team again. It's called the life cycle of a professional sports franchise. It's not talking down on them. It's what they've been. Now, if you are comfortable with a below-average football team and a below-average performance and 17.5 points per game, and you've enjoyed the experience, your viewing experience over the course of the last 2 seasons, then, good luck and God bless. But that is not what I'm interested in, nor is it talking down about them. It's just realism. It's where they're at. I don't think you should need to be coddled about that, but if you prefer to be coddled about that, then go elsewhere, because I'm not going to do it. 615-737-1045 is the number. Steve is in Nashville next.
Buck, thank you for taking my call. That particular Chris Brown song does suck.
He's got some good ones. And it's just like, what? We do radio. Why is there lyrics in the music? Everything should be instrumental. I don't want to have to talk over Chris Brown, Lucas.
That's all good.
We're only coming back to clean versions of Chris Brown in the middle of a verse for the rest of the show.
All right, so if we talk about wins and losses, it's tough to do. So as opposed to talking about wins and losses, what I want to talk about too, and you do talk about this all the time. Two things. One, we playing a 4-3 or 3-4, because I'll be honest, and I know people say, it doesn't make a difference. Yes, it does. Do I want Javon Curse as an outside linebacker rushing, or do I want him in space? So let's chill until we know what we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, and I'm tired of hearing about John Robinson's missed draft picks, I will name you 6 or 7 players that go on to other teams. You know what I want to see? I want to see consistency with coaching the players we have, i.e. David Long. He looked great in the Dolphins uniform when he left. You want to keep you keep naming them down the line.
Well, Steve,
right?
quickly now, let's just stick with that example. David Long was a good football player here. They got David Long paid here. You know what I'm saying? They just didn't bring him back.
Okay, so they didn't bring him back. What'd they do to Christian Fulton? He's the only guy that I know that could cover Jameis Williams at Alabama and Devontae Smith. What did they do to him? I call it being Vrabelized, right? It's hamstring. It's all the ham. But let's take these players. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a one-year deal here to prove himself. But let's take the players we have. Let's coach them up properly. That's what I'm looking forward to see. 6 wins, 7 wins, I'm fine with it, as long as we see progression like that. Buck, have a nice day. Don't play any more Chris Brown stuff.
You hear him, Lucas? I'm fine with Chris Brown. I just want instrumental. I don't want lyrics. It convolutes the thing. Anyway, the Fulton thing, I will agree with that. Mike Vrabel handled Christian Fulton wrong. Flatly. And Christian Fulton's body let him down. Both things can be so. I think that's completely fair. But I don't think you can blanket statement it the way that Steve just tried to. But I understand why people might. Now, he mentioned Christian Fulton on a 1-year deal. I'm 100% open to it. In fact, I think that there is a decent possibility of that, though I know Christian is interested in, one, getting his body right first and then continuing to test his market because, unfortunately for him, his contract year did not go the way that he would have wanted it to. And it is going to be a smaller pool for him to pick from of the options that are available. But that is somebody who has roots here now. Him and his family opened up a storefront right in my neighborhood off Buchanan. Like, Christian Fulton likes it here. I think that he wants to play for the Titans to an extent, though Titans fans have not treated him very well, and I get the frustration. Some of those frustrations are definitely earned. And the drop-off that he experienced year over year is tough to explain. But there was some mismanagement with Christian Fulton for sure.
I know people are tired about hearing how bad John Robinson's draft picks got over the last few years, but on this football team of players still in their rookie deals, who would be players that you look at and say, yeah, if you would like for them to be able to get a second contract here?
Not one, because Jeff's already on his second deal. Not one.
Well, there are a few, but none of them are John Robinson draft picks.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not one of the players on the rookie deal.
It's insane. Not one player drafted in the last 5 years, not named Will Levis, Peter Skoronski, Tajay Spears. Basically, the whole draft class from last year are guys that you look at and say, yeah, that would like to see them back here for a second contract.
Do you want a single player? I mean, the 2020 draft's already gone. Gone. All of them.
Yep.
Assuming Fulton doesn't come back, all of them.
So they're not going to have big deals to give second contracts to players already in-house anytime soon. Square
Up says Roger McCreary. Listen, Roger's solid.
Sure.
But I'm not 100% sold on giving Roger McCreary. You see what nickel slot corners are getting paid right now? I'm not 100% sold on that. He may be an ascending player, and bless him, he's available to his credit, but Roger McCreary's not a perfect player. And again, he's a product of his circumstances too, so I think that we will see. But
he is the one that has shown the most. Yeah.
Lucas, they had, let me see if I can remember that, because I remember writing about this a couple of months ago. They had, I believe, 11 picks in the top 100 over the course of the 2020, 21, and 22 drafts. One of them in McCreary is a viable player. The second one on that list is Elijah Molden, who has hardly played at all dealing with that groin injury and is being moved into different positions out of necessity last year. And I think Elijah Molden is still a question mark, though I do find him admirable, and he does have leadership skills that I think are worth keeping around. We'll see what happens with him. But one player out of 11 in the top 100, and it may be more. I know the number was in the teens. You can't say that you're tied. If you want to know what the main problem with the Tennessee Titans has been over the course of the last season and a half, the roster was in a state of rot, and the draft classes were the biggest reason why. Now, that's not squarely on John, though John paid the price for it with his job, and ultimately Mike Vrabel did too, to an extent. And Mike had some extenuating circumstances there as well, of course. But just because you're tired of hearing it doesn't make it any less true. Brandon is in Westmoreland next.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for having me. So I'm a longtime Titans fan since they come here in '99. I can't say that Ryan Tannehill was a lot of our problems while Ryan was here. He done a lot of good things for us after Marcus. So just curious on his state. Do you think he'll get picked up with any team, or do you think he's done? So just not that it matters anymore for the Titans, but just curious about Ryan. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for the call, Brent. Tannehill's going to get a job somewhere. It's just a matter of in what role and how soon. I don't think there's any. I think they can. Do you think they'd let the draft play out before somebody signed Tannehill? Because he's probably. Given the value of the position and what's currently out there on the free agent market, he's probably in the top 15 best available players right now.
One part of the run on backup quarterbacks.
Well, it's because he doesn't want to be a backup quarterback.
But he's going to be until he's forced into a starting role. Right now, Tannehill's best bet is to go somewhere where, he's the backup, and he's probably going to end up starting games because of the nature of the NFL right now.
I disagree. I think Tannehill's best bet is Denver.
I just cannot see Denver's solution after paying all that money to not have Russell Wilson be Ryan Tannehill. I just can't. You have to have something better than that.
Are you unfamiliar with the Broncos' history of quarterbacks since Peyton Manning?
I understand. But
so
you cannot bend over backwards like that and pay all that money to let Russell Wilson go for your solution to be Ryan Tannehill. I just don't buy that.
Why not? They did it with Osweiler. What was the Memphis quarterback?
Isn't that the point of bringing Sean Payton in, to get away from the ridiculousness of the post-Peyton Manning era?
Financially, they can't, Lucas. They don't have the draft picks to do it. They are in. Sean Payton came in here.
They're in a tough spot.
So, what would you have them do? Ride it out with what's it? Stidham? Is Stidham in Denver?
Yep.
You want him to ride it out with Jarrett Stidham as opposed to taking a flyer on Tannehill as a starting quarterback just to get you through 2024? Because that's what they're doing. They have to get through the draft capital situation that they've put themselves in with the Russell Wilson thing. They have to get through the financial situation of what they've put themselves in the Russell Wilson thing. They are the only job, really, that's available for starting quarterback beyond Minnesota, who just traded to have 2 first-round picks. So in all likelihood, they can move up to get their future starting quarterback. What other solution is there for Denver but Ryan Tannehill?
Oh, I don't have one other than moving up in the draft from that 12th pick to that top 7 or so. And even then, who are you talking about? Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy? But all I know is good luck selling your fan base on, we are going to pay $80 million to get Russ out of here so we can start Ryan Tannehill.
It's not about selling your fan base. You just kind of have to eat it. I'm sure Broncos fans are realistic about their Broncos country.
Why are you looking at me? Looking at me like you want something.
Broncos country.
Broncos country.
There it is. You're not going to get me with that. So, they don't have a second-round pick, Denver, because of the Wilson deal. They don't have ammunition, really, to trade up unless they're going to forego future firsts, which sounds like an even bigger disaster.
I mean,
Sean Payton took that
McCarthy.
job. Sean Payton took that job, Lucas, knowing damn well, or having at least an agreement with Broncos ownership. The Walmart family just ate the $83 million to get him the hell out of there, or $85 million to get him the hell out of there. He had an agreement taking that job, whether it was verbal, written, or otherwise, that, hey, I get a little time to ride this thing out because you guys botched it. So
J.J. McCarthy could be there at 12.
Could be.
Probably will be. I will be shocked if that's their solution, is Ryan Tannehill. We're going to give Russell all the money in the world to not play for us so that Ryan Tannehill can be our starter.
And I just don't understand how you could be shocked when you look at the Broncos situation and saying, okay, what the hell else are they going to do at quarterback? We'll briefly on the Nick Saban thing because it's really, really late. Can I hear from Nick Saban, who was at Congress last week sitting next to Senator Ted Cruz, as a matter of fact, talking about the state of college football and name, image, and likeness, its impact on the sport.
All the things that I believed in for all these years, 50 years of coaching, no longer exist in college athletics. So it's always was about developing players. It was always about helping people be more successful in life. My wife even said to me, we'd have all the recruits over on Sunday with their parents for breakfast, and she would always meet with the mothers and talk about how she was going to help and impact their sons and how they would be well taken care of. And she came to me, like right before I retired and said, why are we doing this? And I said, what do you mean? She said, all they care about is how much you're going to pay them. They don't care about how you're going to develop them, which is all what we've always done. So why are we doing this? So, to me, that was sort of a red alert that we really are creating a circumstance here that is not beneficial to the development of young people. As I said before, name, image, and likeness is a great opportunity for them to create a brand for themselves. I'm not against that at all. But to come up with some kind of a system that still can help the development of young people, I think, is paramount to the future of college athletics.
Okay, so I want to just say this because it's a week-old news story and we didn't have time to get to it last week because it was a cluster. Nick Saban can be right and also be hypocritical there. Is that a fair assessment? He's right. I believe him to be genuine when he says that he truly wants to develop players, to set them up for success. I believe that he believes in that fundamentally. I'm sure him and Miss Terry, their entire lives to an extent, other than financially benefiting off of these players because they have, I believe that he believes that at his core. But I don't know how you can sit up there and say that everything that I knew about college football is gone just because the athletes are now monetizing it and that the biggest issue is they just care about how much you want to pay them. Well, of course they do. Do you know where some of these people come from? The work that they have to do, the devotion that they have to give to their craft to get out of these various circumstances. You remember Tajay Spears talking about where it is in Louisiana that he comes from, his family? I believe he's one of 9. The circumstances that his family has been through in his life and that football is the way out and that he can be an example. It's a much rosier picture because you don't see all the bad things that people like that have to go through to get to the point where they want, where they can finally capitalize, where they can finally monetize. Of course they want to know how much you want to pay them because they deserve to be paid. So I'm not upset with Nick Saban. I just think it's a little bit, and he has to be. It's fitting that he's in front of Congress talking out of both sides of his mouth. He is right, and I believe him, okay? I'm not mad at Nick Saban, but also you can't really get up there like that when you've made the amount of money that Nick Saban has had in this, has been able to accumulate in this sport off contracts alone, much less endorsements, much less free things, country club memberships, houses that have been bought, cars that he's paid for, dealerships that he's been able to buy as a result of all these things. Hell, one in Nashville. You can be genuine and also be a hypocrite if you're Nick Saban in this particular fight. And I think it's just a tough spot for him to be in.
But we got to stop pretending, though, that player NIL deals and bolting for the next biggest NIL deal and the next biggest NIL deal is the same thing as coaches leaving for bigger deals. Like coaches have contracts
Mm-hmm.
and financial penalties if they just bolt to go from school to school. Like coaches aren't going to coach a team in spring practice and then somewhere else in the fall, and then at the end of the fall go coach a third team in the same calendar year. That's not happening. So it's a bit apples and oranges. I think it is a little lazy to look at that and say, well, coaches can just go to the next highest paying job,
which is not what I did.
Players. Yeah, no, for sure. So it is more complicated than that. And I do think Saban is. The part where I disagree with him is talking about, well, Bryce Young's the perfect example of NIL because he got to school, he earned his spot, he won a Heisman, and then he's getting Dr. Pepper and his this and that. That's unrealistic to act like players are just going to go pick based on academics and the best fit and then make money. Like, it's going to be part of the conversation from day one, but it is lazy to me to just compare that to coaches leaving for higher paying jobs.
We have Bill Burr tickets to give away. All you have to do is tell us what in sports made you say, oh, no. That's coming up next. 615-737-1045 is how you get in to enter for the opportunity to win some Bill Burr tickets. But you have to give us an oh, no. Don't just call in and think we're going to give you the tickets. 615-737-1045. Call now. What in sports made you say, oh no, for the chance to win Bill Burr tickets? Lucas, when is this going down?
Bill Burr in mid-May at Bridgestone Arena. This is going to be an awesome show. May 17th, you will get a pair of tickets to see the great comedian Bill Burr with the best submission for what made you say, oh no, in sports.
Hit the music.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Oh no.
Oh yeah!
So stay on the line after we take your call because Lucas will be able to pick the line back up and let you know that you've won the tickets. 615-737-1045 is the number. What in sports made you say, oh no, this was mine, courtesy of Bally Sports?
Another turnover for Utah. Edwards gets it back and threw it down and one from the rafters.
Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I know every one of you saw this, at least making the rounds via highlight reel last night. He posterized John Collins of the Utah Jazz so hard, one, that he hurt his own hand, Anthony Edwards, and put John Collins in the concussion protocol. That was the thing that made me literally drop what was in my hands because I was watching this game live. Drop what was in my hands, put my hands in front of my mouth and say, oh, no. Wow. That is
vicious.
the most violent dunk I think I have ever seen.
He dislocated his finger and then had to pop it back into place.
Well, because you saw him holding up his hand and his teammates were like, oh.
He wasn't even celebrating, yeah. But my goodness, that was a vicious dunk. God, go watch it if you haven't yet. That was insane.
That's mine.
My oh no of the sports weekend, the Atlantic 10 Tournament Championship on Sunday. Duquesne taking on VCU. All the marbles, a spot in the NCAA tournament, a conference championship on the line. Duquesne up 15, just under 18 minutes to go in the second half, and confetti streamers start falling from the rafters. This is the Kevin Harlan call on CBS.
Airstone gives off to Jackson. My goodness. Oh, my gosh. They've got confetti falling right now. Confetti is falling on the floor. They're going to have to stop playing. We can't see our notes. The players can't work on this court. Confetti is everywhere. Somebody hit the wrong button.
It was so funny to see in real time when confetti just starts streaming over the game camera and you can't see anything.
No.
Now, admittedly, this would have been much, much better if VCU had then come back because the confetti was Duquesne colors.
Oh.
With Duquesne up 15.
That's hilarious.
At the beginning of the second half. So, like a superstitious sports fan's worst nightmare, right? But VCU did mount a comeback, fell short. Duquesne wins, and they are in the NCAA tournament.
Kevin Harlan's the best.
Yes.
What in sports made you say, oh no, for the chance to win Bill Burr tickets? Let's start with Michael in Gallatin. Remember to stay on hold.
My oh no is the Justin Fields trade. Bears never made an attempt to put anybody on the field to help the offense until they got DJ Moore last year. And now they finally put something in, and they ship him off, and now he's going to rot over in Pittsburgh. R.I.P. Justin Fields' career.
Jeez, that's dramatic. He may be the starting quarterback. Thank you for the call, Michael. I don't know that he can't beat out Russ. Russ pretty bad at this point, but we'll see.
I mean, it wasn't the whole thing around Pickett, Russ saying, if I'm coming here, I'm going to start. And they said, all right, Kenny, see ya.
Oh, I didn't see that, but.
Yeah, that was the circumstances around. Kenny Pickett was basically told, yeah, Russ is coming here to be the starter. So he said, all right, trade me.
Okay. Tommy in Nashville is next.
Yeah, I have to say, I believe it was in 1988 Summer Olympics when Ben Johnson just blew Carl Lewis off the track. That was a big oh no for me.
Well, it's got to be this week. Not before Lucas and I were born.
It could be in the previous century.
I appreciate the effort, though, Tommy. Clayton in Nashville. Oh.
Tommy wasn't done.
Go ahead, Clayton.
Just want to say you guys are absolutely hilarious. I listen to you guys every day.
No, it's bad for you.
Oh,
You
no,
should probably
this
stop that. But
oh, no, this week for me is the way that the Vols came out and played in the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
It fired up my BVS just a little bit, but I'm kind of with you guys. I didn't mind the early exodus of the tournament, but I just wish they could have showed a little more fight.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I mean,
BVS started acting up, started to itch a little bit.
a little agita. Tough scene. All right, let's squeeze one more in. How about Julio? Not that Julio, but Julio in Nashville.
Hey, Buck. My oh no of the weekend was the NCAA selection committee robbing us of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Indiana State the tournament.
No, bleep that guy.
No, I
Bleep
agree.
that guy.
I agree with Julio.
No.
Robbie Avila is exactly the type of player we need in the NCAA tournament.
No, I don't want to look at him anymore. It just makes me sad that he's playing for Indiana State instead of Indiana. Indiana didn't have a damn player like that.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
I liked it, Julio.
The worst loss for Indiana since we lost Larry Bird, since Bobby Knight was too hard on Larry Bird.
All right, who's going to Bill Burr?
I mean, the Vols one is just so bad.
It is. It is very oh no. Yes, it is.
It is the most obvious oh no.
It is, unfortunately. They did not show up.
Clayton, congratulations. Lucas will contact you shortly with the tickets. We appreciate your participation. We have more giveaways this week, so don't worry if you did not win the Bill Burr tickets. We'll have more opportunities for giveaways this week. Coming up next, though, we'll recap which players have visited the Titans, what they have allowed to walk out of their door that has signed elsewhere, and what they are still in play for. Coming up next.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Tennessee Titans have reportedly signed free agent defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day. The 28-year-old has 11 career sacks since coming into the league in 2018 and has played for the Rams, the Chargers, and the 49ers. The Houston Texans making another signing, according to Jeremy Fowler. It is former Titans defensive lineman Mario Edwards on a one-year deal. Edwards spent last season with Seattle. Yesterday, the New Orleans Saints signed former Niners defensive end Chase Young on a one-year deal worth $13 million. Also, quarterback Joshua Dobbs has landed in San Francisco on a one-year deal worth $2.5 million. The men's NCAA tournament gets underway tonight with the first four. Wagner and Howard battle for the 16 seed in the West at 5:40, and it's Colorado State and Virginia playing for the 10 seed in the Midwest at 8:10. You can hear the Westwood One coverage of those games after 3HL at 6 right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Nothing makes me happier than when Lucas's breaking sports news update gets undermined by breaking news happening right in the middle of it.
What happened?
The Texans, they continue to add defensive linemen. They have now signed Titans legend Mario Edwards Jr. to a one-year deal. How many more defensive linemen can the Houston Texans sign? They already have Danielle Hunter. They already have Danico Autry. They signed Azeez El-Share. I know he's not a lineman, but he's a linebacker. They are continuing to fortify their defensive front. Just as the Titans try to get their offensive line right, the rest of the division says, no, we'll take all of your defensive linemen and try and continue to keep you down that way. You saw Trevis Gibson sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars yesterday. Former Titan. He was here last year. Scooped him up off the Chicago Bears practice squad at the start of last season. If I recall correctly, it's an arms race in the AFC South, and D'Amico Ryans and the Texans are definitely doubling down.
Houston Texans making another signing, according to Jeremy Fowler. It is former Titans defensive lineman Mario Edwards on a one-year deal. Edwards spent last season with Seattle. Sorry, I was editing something over here from my update that I did literally minutes ago that included the breaking news that you said I didn't.
Somebody was in here talking to me. That's not fair.
Sure.
We were talking about you. Does that make you feel any better?
The smile on your face when you were like rubbing your hands together, turning your mic on. I can't wait to roast Lucas because he didn't get this news in.
Damn it. Tom Pelissero is reporting that 2 Indianapolis Colts defensive backs have been suspended for gambling. Tough scene. That happens by percentage. You are way worse of an offender than I am. Way worse.
Yes, not just here, but in life.
Yeah. It's true. You have a very favorable perception on the radio. Now, it helps you that you're up against me. So I think that goes a long way. But elsewhere in the world, much less favorable. Anyway, bad job out of me. So, speaking of signings around the NFL, Titans did add, according to Jason McCourty, Sebastian Joseph Day. He's not any kind of a game breaker, but he's a depth piece on the defensive line, and you have no starters and hardly any depth other than Jeff Simmons and Harold Landry. So you're trying to add as many players as humanly possible to try and fortify this roster. Now, there's a couple of other players who are scheduled to meet with the Titans throughout the course of the week, and we'll see if they can't make any headway there. One of them is Andrus Peat, the longtime guard. He was a tackle coming out of Stanford, but a guard is what he has been in New Orleans.
He's been a tackle as well.
He's played a variety of different positions. It's such a rare thing that players get to actually play just the one position anymore with the rate of injuries and as they continue to expand the season, and now they're talking about 18 regular season games and I'm sure 20 before long. So Andrus Peat, scheduled to make a visit, played left tackle. I don't think that'd be an ideal left tackle situation, but if you can make him a starting guard who can play tackle, I'd feel better about that, should you have a situation arise due to injury. Marcus May, a safety who has experience under Denard Wilson, the new Titans defensive coordinator. He is also scheduled to make a visit. Titans have obvious needs in the secondary. They could use probably, 3 corners and a safety, 3 corners and 2 safeties. They need a bunch of help in the secondary. I don't want to see Trey Avery play meaningful snaps for this football team moving forward. So those are the scheduled visits right now. And it's not like they had a good start in free agency. How would you describe the Titans free agency thus far? Because the word that I would use is aggressive. Now, that they have been in on or scheduled meetings with a variety of different free agents that they haven't been able to sign does not mean that they are any less aggressive. It just means that after the first wave, they've had a little harder time getting guys through visits or coming to terms with players who have visited that make the most sense for them. So, on the list of players that have either been scheduled for visits and signed elsewhere or visited and signed elsewhere, you have DJ Reader, the nose tackle who went to Detroit, Jerome Baker, linebacker who would have made all the sense in the world here given the Kenneth Murray situation, but he goes to Seattle. You have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who I don't believe had visited, but might have been scheduled to visit. Titans were definitely interested in him, thought they were going to get him, and he ends up going back to the Eagles. Well, he had been in Detroit and now will make his second stint in Philadelphia. They were supposed to visit with Eric Armstead and Chase Young. They don't get the opportunity to get with either of them before they sign deals elsewhere.
Where did Armstead end up? Jacksonville?
Armstead is in Jacksonville. And that is just about the list of players that they had set out to meet with or have met with that have signed with other teams.
That have signed with other teams, yeah.
Correct. So, not the end of the world, as we said to start the show. Sebastian Joseph Day is not going to put your defense over the top. He may not even be a starting caliber player, though he may be in a situation like this where you're going to have to dollar store some things together, okay? And you still have resources to spend. You still have a fair amount of resources to spend. By most estimates, and again, the cap stuff is fluid because you don't actually know, over the cap and Spotrac don't actually know how much money they have. These are rough estimates, or at least that is how they should be viewed. But between $35 and $40 million is a fair estimate. It's probably on the lower end of most of those estimates, but I think that's the safer way to go about this in 2024 cap space that they still have available. Now, I think that for Titans fans, the defense is probably going to be a talking point all year long. And this is prior to what they'll add in the draft. But I think that you're going to have to ask Jeff and Harold Landry. So now that Aaron Donald is retired, Chris Jones is obviously the best defensive lineman in football, yeah?
Yep.
Am I doing Jeff a disservice if I say he's 90% of Chris Jones?
No, Chris Jones is a great player.
Well, he's not just a great player. He's the best player now that Aaron Donald is gone. And for Jeff to be 90% of the best player is not, I don't consider it a slight to Jeff, nor does it mean that Jeff cannot at some point be the best interior defensive lineman in football. But Chris Jones is definitely that. And you saw his value equate to that this offseason with the Chiefs. I think north of 30 on an average annual basis is what he's making. Jeff is closer to 25. Jeff Simmons is a great player. Harold Landry is a great player, and you definitely saw signs of that coming back in the second half of the season as he started to recover and play and get more comfortable coming off the ACL tear. They still need considerably more help. Now, Lucas and I went back and forth about this a little bit yesterday. The idea of prioritizing front 7 signings and going with value on the back end, if you can help it, because the ability to impact the quarterback makes it so you can get away. If you have the ability to impact the quarterback at a higher rate, it makes life easier easier on your secondary, in theory, right? And it makes that logic makes perfect sense. Am I presenting your side of the argument correctly?
Yeah.
What am I to do, though, Lucas, with the NFL right now and the state of passing games where the average time to throw for these quarterbacks is 2.5 seconds or less, which does a great deal to negate the pass rush. Now, you can still impact the throw. Get your hands up, right? Try and jump as the ball's being released. Try and draw a holding penalty on an offensive lineman. These are as effective in some form or fashion as getting to the quarterback, getting him physically on the ground. But when I look at that, I'm not saying that it's not important to have your best horses up front. I'm just saying that the league has evolved in a way, and passing games have evolved in a way where it almost puts the premium, to me, on the secondary, the ability to hold up in coverage as opposed to getting to the quarterback, because the Tuas of the world, hell, they want Levis to do it. They want Levis to get the ball out as quickly as humanly possible. Remember what Brian Callahan said about protection being a holistic issue?
Yeah, that's as big a part of it as anything.
Mm-hmm. So does me presenting that side of the argument to you impact your thinking at all on the premium for you being on the front seven versus the secondary?
Well, instead of hearing my thinking on it, should we listen to Denard Wilson's thinking on it when we come back?
Yes, let's. All right, so we mentioned a quote from Denard Wilson, the new Titans defensive coordinator, a little while ago, and his thoughts on how you view the defense, how he views defense, and what it's like to basically operate from behind it. Now, you've heard Coach Dave McGinnis talk about the way that he prefers to view practice. Lucas, how does Coach Mack prefer to view practice when he's out there at the facility?
Behind the secondary.
Because you can see everything. You can see the way that the offensive play is developing. You can see the way that the defense is making the adjustments in a more clear picture. So, as a secondary coach, fair to assume that Denard Wilson would have some thoughts on the matter. This was him at his introductory press conference at some point this month.
Right. When you work from the back to the front, it's like a puzzle at the end of the day. All the pieces fit a certain way. So, you know, from a grand scheme standpoint, you can understand, you can look at the game from a big picture because you're looking from the outside in and from the back to the trenches. You know, like I say, you know, I've been around great D-line coaches throughout the course of my career, great linebacker coach. Like I mentioned again, Frank Bush is a hell of a linebacker coach. And as a young coach, I learned a lot from those type guys to learn how to put it together. And over the years, I just got better at understanding how the puzzle fits.
So, kind of like a puzzle. That's probably, I mean, I don't want to make any assumptions, but I think it's probably fair to look at what they have and look at the way that they're going about this thing and thinking that Denard Wilson's preference would be to build from back to front. Yes? Am I reading too much into those comments, do you think?
That's kind of, it's how he views the game as a defensive backs coach. That's
Sure.
how he has game planned throughout the course of his career. How much it informs personnel decisions, I guess, is still TBD. I mean, I guess the fact that the Titans were in on, or have been reportedly, according to you, in on L'Jarius Sneed, and
not completely dead, but pretty unlikely at this point.
So, if they had materialized that trade for Sneed and signed Awuzie, then that would have been a clear indication, right, of where their priorities kind of lie.
And that they tried to, I think, still speaks to their prioritization, right? Because what did we talk about defensively? We talked about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a safety. We talked about Awuzie. And we talked about L'Jarius Sneed. Now, they signed a linebacker and just recently added a defensive lineman, but I still think that their pattern of behavior, now we don't know in what order they went about calling these guys, that's some kind of way to determine prioritization or something of the like. But
well, just look at the money, right? If you want to determine prioritization.
The money, well, the Sneed money is a bit rich for them on top of the compensation because we're talking about a player that, according to multiple reports, is interested in north of $20 million a year. Jalen Johnson, the Bears corner, just signed for $19 million on an average annual basis on his new deal with the Chicago Bears. I still think that it gives some level of indication, some level of preference to building this defense from back to front. In the same way, Lucas, I kind of look at it as similarly to Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan prioritizes the passing game, yes? Denard Wilson is prioritizing the passing game.
Defensively.
Defensively. And the prioritization of the passing game is not just, can you get to the quarterback? It's, can you hold up in coverage, because the quarterbacks are getting rid of the ball so much faster now to where two and a half seconds is almost a long time in a lot of these NFL systems, especially guys who are playing with speed and space. I mentioned Tua and the Dolphins earlier. They're probably the highest evolution of that. But San Francisco, a run-based offense, but the ball gets out of Purdy's hands quickly, right? That's the best and most efficient way to maximize your passing game. It's not deep. Josh Allen in the playoff game, they put basically reins on him, yeah, to where he wasn't taking shots until the end of the game. He was matriculating the ball down the field.
And Denard Wilson has been the defensive backs coach now for the team in the last 2 years that has led the league in sacks. Philly and then Baltimore, both doing it with elite secondaries.
And without having to send much pressure, right? Four-man fronts.
Yes.
So something to keep in mind.
But
now,
you also have to be able to win with four-man fronts.
You absolutely do. And Baltimore has that. Now, to the state of players currently on the Titans roster. Kenneth Murray, the former first-round pick out of Oklahoma, formerly of the Chargers, now here on a 2-year deal. He's a pretty interesting case study for, all right, let's see if a second opportunity doesn't make a difference in this player, because in Los Angeles, he wasn't very good. Now, you didn't spend huge money on him, but it's money of consequence. This is Ran Carthon on the morning show talking about, specific to Frank Bush, who he has been around, the former Titans linebacker coach, who's now back in a third stint with the franchise because he's been with the Oilers, been with the Titans, and now is with the Titans again. Frank Bush and the impact that he will have on a player like Kenneth Murray now in Tennessee.
No, it was good. It was big to get Cain in here. Like you said, he's someone that you've been watching since the Oklahoma days. You appreciate the way he plays, and his athleticism and his length and his speed and his just ability to run. And just getting with someone like Frank Bush is going to turn him loose, eliminate some of the thinking and the processing, and just let him go hunt. Just let him go play ball. And if you look at Frank's background, he's done that everywhere he's went, whether it's an undrafted guy, whether it's a first-round pick, or a mid-round pick. He's just that's what Frank does. Is he gets guys comfortable into who they are, and I guess in their own skin, if you will, and just allows them to go play free football.
So maybe it'll make a difference. Optimistically, I think that's the way that Titans fans are viewing it. Of course, I prefer to wait for proof of concept, and we won't have that for quite some time, so we'll see.
Well, if your plan is to let Kenneth Murray go hunt, then who's going to be next to Kenneth Murray?
Yeah, because you have to have somebody to be able to hold up in coverage. Who's your Jayon Brown to your Rashaan Evans? Who's your who was David Long's running mate for the longest?
He was paired with Cunningham
Cunningham is a good example of that. Absolutely. Who's your coverage linebacker? Now, they can get one in the draft.
Who's your green dot?
Well, that's the other thing. They don't have the green dot on the defense yet, because I don't think it's going to be Kenneth Murray. And Blaine expressed a pretty significant level of concern about that when I was on with them, I want to say last week. Joseph would probably recall better than I do.
Well, that's what I hear when I hear Rand say that. We just want Kenneth Murray to play free, to go hunt, to play without thinking.
Mm-hmm.
See ball, hit ball. Use his athleticism to his full advantage. So somebody's got to be partnered up with Kenneth Murray.
And on an ideal world, that would have been Jerome Baker.
Exactly.
In the best case scenario, that would have been Jerome Baker, because this is not, I'm not going to pretend to know all the ins and outs of this inside linebacker class that's coming up in the draft, but there's not really a ton of top-end players that you're looking at that position. It's not a position that's prioritized. It's not a position that gets overwhelmingly paid well. So the best athletes aren't at the inside linebacker positions anymore.
Free agents that are still out there, Zach Cunningham, who is 29. I feel like he has been around forever.
Titans legend.
And is not 30 yet.
Jayon's already out of the league. He's not 30.
Jayon, is he really already out of the league?
He wasn't anywhere last year.
Quan Alexander is out there, 29. Jacob Phillips.
Quan Alexander is another one that should be way older than 29.
Yeah. Jacob Phillips, a free agent at 24.
Nashville native.
Yes, Nashville native, East Nashville High School. Jacob Phillips, didn't he suffer a pretty serious injury?
He had a pretty significant injury with the Browns a couple of years ago, but
He hasn't played since 2021.
Yeah.
But Blake Martinez, former Steelers linebacker. Neville Hewitt.
No.
Shaquille Leonard.
Oh, you mean Darius Leonard?
Yes. I think he's back. Is he back to Shaquille?
I thought he would. No, he was Darius, then went to Shaq Leonard. Now I want to say that he's gone back to Darius Leonard, but I don't know. The former Colts linebacker, we'll say. But his body has failed him precipitously, too. He's fallen off a cliff. So you're probably looking at an organic solution here at inside linebacker, meaning a draft pick. Isn't it going to be funny after spending all this time? What if we come out of this talking all about offense in the upcoming draft, where wide receivers and offensive linemen are plenty, and we get into Saturday afternoon with Rand Carthon. He looks up from the draft board and is like, "Oh, I can't believe I picked all defensive players." Somebody just told me that the way that he did last year when he went, 6 picks on offense? All 6 picks on offense?
It was all 6, yep.
Funny. Roll the dice, play the board.
Well, that's not something they could afford in this draft to go all defense.
Buddy, they couldn't afford it last year with the wide receiver thing, the way that we talked about. And they waited until the 7th round to bring in Colton Down. Now, again, the Hopkins thing bailed them out in a huge way, but I refuse. Mike was super casual about it. So was Rand. But I refuse to believe that they deserve to be as confident about landing DeAndre Hopkins at the time when they waited until the 7th round to draft him.
Sure.
Colton Down.
But different setup with Brian Callahan, and there's no bailout at left tackle at the end of the summer.
No, that's true. Now, they tendered Jack Gibbons. I don't want to see that again. Sure as hell not as a coverage linebacker. What do I do with Otis Reese, who is basically, he's like the Aaron Brewer of inside linebackers. He's not very big because he's a former safety from Ole Miss. But those guys converted defensive backs, high-level athletes, especially in coverage. It's not like David Long and Jahan were overwhelmingly big players, right? You don't have to be. You have to be able to move. I'm not going to act like I know everything there is to know about Otis Reese, but are we discounting him in this discussion? Nobody has asked the coaching staff or the general manager about him specifically. And I feel like I'm probably reaching even bringing up his name, but he is technically under contract for the team and did play a little bit at the end when they started to sit players for the purposes of, what was that Cowboys game that did? No, that was 2 years ago. What was the game this year that they started to arrest a bunch of people? Anyway. What does Otis Reese deserve some level of discussion here? Maybe.
Probably deserves to be back at camp.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, he be a tryout player, and maybe he makes a consequential leap. We'll have to wait to see, but I wouldn't be relying on that.
With the signing of Joseph Day, where is the biggest concern on defense right now? Just in terms of
still there
lack of bodies,
still the
defensive line.
Still the defensive line. Danico Autry played as much edge as he did inside. You're basically losing 2 players when you lose Danico. Tart, whatever your issues with him and whatever issues they had with him, and they did have issues with him, and it's notable that Tart's not signed yet.
Nobody seems to want Teair Tart.
He's a bit of a problem child going back to college, Lucas. You remember this? He was recruited at Alabama and then didn't he go to JUCO before he went to FAU?
Yeah, FIU, right?
FIU, yeah.
Or was it FAU?
I don't know. I always do that because Jonnu was FIU, and I didn't think that Jonnu and Teair Tart were at the, it could be.
He's gone on visits. I know he went to the Bengals last week.
And they chose to pass on him.
Yeah. I mean, talk about a guy that might have really overplayed his hand. Teair Tart.
But he didn't because he's a good player. He's just a bit of a brat. But like, I don't know, is he such a brat? Is he such a malcontent that you can't find any? I thought that dude was going to get $10 to $12 million a year this year.
Texans let him go and then signed a bunch of other defensive linemen.
That's true. I am curious to see what they end up doing there because defensive line, even though they added Sebastian Joseph Day, is still the biggest issue. The biggest issue to me. And that's understanding that they probably could stand to add 2 more corners and at least 1 more safety with Elijah Molden on the roster. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. We'll talk about Mason Rudolph as the backup quarterback here in just a moment. A quick reminder that you can get your tickets to the live show, The Install with Greg Cosell, coming up on May the 3rd. We're going to break down whomever ends up being in the entirety of the Titans free agent class. We're going to break down the entirety of the Titans 2024 draft class. We're very excited to do it with you. It's only $25 to get in the door. The tickets are selling so fast. You guys really bought them up right out of the gate. But the fortunate part is they gave us a ton this year, and we want to pack the house. We damn near had a sellout last year. I think we're fully capable of having a sellout this year, and the added bonus to it is it helps us raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. That's going to be the main event of the Visionary of the Year campaign that I'm participating in to help raise money for LLS. So get your tickets right now at 1045thezone.com. It's going to be me and Greg. We're going to have some participation from the Titans that we'll tell you a little bit more about probably once we get within a month of the show. But when we announce that, those tickets are going to be gone. I guarantee you. I'm willing to stake something. I don't know, credibility is probably not something I could stake on anything right now, but I'm willing to bet that as soon as we announce that, the tickets are going to be gone. So I would advise you to get them right now, not just because I told you to, but because I would like to see you there, and I know that they're going to go up fast. So 1045thezone.com is where you get them. And like I said, it's going to be awesome. Friday, May the 3rd, from 6 to 11, we'll have a happy hour. There's a full bar at the event. So you know, live podcasts are always fun, especially when you can do it at a cool venue like the Hutton Hotel. But everything's more fun when you have a full bar. So we hope to see you Friday, May the 3rd. Get your tickets now at 1045thezone.com. And Lucas will drop the link when he has a moment in the YouTube and Facebook Live chats. Tristan is in Brentwood next.
Thank you for taking my call. How about Junior Colson, who played at Ravenwood, when I played at Michigan? Would he be a great inside linebacker, leader of the linebacker, and number 17 from Michigan defense lineman Connor McDavid or whatever the guy? Yes, Brandon or.
Anyway, let's stick with Junior Colson. I appreciate the call, Tristan. He's a first-round pick.
Yeah, he's the best linebacker.
He's the best inside linebacker. I don't know. Trade out of 7. Don't draft an inside linebacker 7. But that would make me feel infinitely better. But, of course, with left tackle, wide receiver, there's less emphasis on it, though I still think I know they need to add an additional player, at least one additional player in the upcoming draft at wide receiver. Could we envision them? Can you imagine we talked about wide receivers and left tackles for 6 months and they end up drafting a first-round linebacker in a trade-back situation?
It's got to be a left tackle.
Well, it doesn't have to be a left tackle.
It's got to be a left tackle.
You just want it to be a left tackle. I want it to be a left tackle just because I'm tired of watching that quarterback on his ass.
I have yet to hear from you or anybody else a competent solution to the left tackle position outside of drafting one at 7.
You can draft one at 13. You can draft one at 38.
Who? Which one?
I don't know. Who's there? I'm not going to tell you how the draft board is going to break.
I can go down. We could talk about wide receivers all day. We could talk about wide receivers you can get in day 2.
Lucas, if Amarius Mims is there,
left tackle.
if Amarius Mims, this highly talented, highly athletic, very raw, but just mountain of a man, Amarius Mims, the Georgia tackle, if he's sitting there in the late teens to early 20s, you don't think that Bill Callahan can do something with him?
Sure. No. If we're talking about trading back into the teens to get a third-round pick and address left tackle there, yeah, I'm good with that. I'll say
that's not 7.
In the first round.
I'm inclined to agree with you on that.
Preferably at 7.
Especially now that Calvin Ridley is on the roster. Preferably at 7.
I think we should be past the idea of drafting a receiver at 7, in my opinion. With Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins on the roster.
I don't know what receivers there at 7. I don't think you should rule out any scenario, though I understand your point. Chris is in Hawaii. Okay, long distance. Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's up, guys? Just calling in here from Honolulu. I was lucky enough to move to Nashville as a young man when the Titans moved there, so I'm a huge fan.
Excellent.
Anyway, real quick. So I know it's not the sexy pick, Music City picking an offensive lineman, but at this point, like you said, man, the Chiefs lost one Super Bowl. Why? Because Mahomes was on his butt the whole time. We got, with Skronsky there and with Alt, we give Will Levis a chance to see if he's even the man. Secondly, we give a chance for a running back to not get murdered. I think we should have kept Derek, but, at the end of the day, we all know this is business. But we got to shore up that offensive line. I don't want to trade down and take the second best offensive lineman. If anybody remembers the Pierre Paul draft back in the day when the Giants were right in front of us, we wanted Pierre-Paul. They grabbed him, and we had to take the second. We need to take the best guy there. We're at 7. Hopefully we're never this high anytime soon. Let's take 7. Let's take Joe Alt. Let's plan for the future, and let's have a great year. Tighten up, and aloha from Honolulu, Nashville. Miss your city.
Well, we appreciate the call. Aloha to you. These are fair points. These are all fair points. We can continue to discuss coming up next. We'll talk about the backup quarterback situation that they've addressed in the noon hour. There is something, though, that's happening on Netflix. Quarterback, the series that debuted on Netflix last year, is not returning for a second season, but in its place, they've put something else out that made me laugh out loud this morning. We'll talk about Receiver, the new Netflix show, coming up next. All right, so I got an email this morning from NFL Communications. It's about a new Netflix series that is getting ready to debut. Lucas, you watched how much of the quarterback series on Netflix last year?
One episode.
And that episode featured?
Kirk Cousins. It was Cousins, Mariota, Mahomes.
And they were all in the first episode.
Yes. And I can't remember. Was there another one?
No, it's just the three. So, best quarterback, good to above average quarterback, journeyman quarterback. Mariota, I'm familiar with his work. I can't imagine he was very compelling on television, respectfully. By the way, did you see what he looks like now?
Yeah. He's a silver fox now, Marcus Mariota.
He and I are the same age. He is aging so fast.
Mariota, not obviously the most compelling person in terms of like from a media perspective, but he did have a compelling 2023, or what would that have been, the 2022 season? 22.
Vegas?
Yeah, because he was in Philly last year. So I didn't watch the rest of the season, so I don't know. Did they cover it well, the thing about Mariota leaving the team and the knee injury and all the weirdness that kind of was around the end of his Falcons tenure?
Well, no. Because these quarterbacks have final say on what gets out there, and Marcus is famously a very, very private person. Now, here's what I'll say. I didn't watch the entire series either, and I'm not the target demo for these things. I don't really care for Hard Knocks. I don't need more training camp in my life. I've got a team that I'm at training camp with every day, so more training camp is not really what I'm interested in. But I understand why people find it entertaining to an extent. Lucas, they cannot find three other quarterbacks to bring back the series. They had to pivot this year. Nobody wanted to be uninteresting on television for money with Netflix. None of the other quarterbacks. Nobody else. Tannehill apparently had considered it last year. Tannehill, I think he mentioned that his wife was interested in doing it, but that it ultimately didn't go through. So they've scrapped quarterback, and now they are debuting receiver, okay? And they've jam-packed it. Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Can you tell me what's different about one of those players from the rest of them?
Well, Kittle. Definitely Kittle.
Okay, so they couldn't even get all the receivers. They had to throw a tight end in there as well.
Okay, but that's a pretty good lineup. Like, those are all star receivers with good and outgoing personalities. Like, you're acting like they're just scraping bottom of the barrel, and then they couldn't get anyone, so they had to go get a tight end. Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Justin Jefferson and Deebo Samuel, and Devontae Adams, that's a solid lineup of receivers.
Sure, if you're talking about a fantasy football team. My thing is, I'm a bad person to do the analysis on this because I want something more. I know what they are as football players. What they are as football players is hugely compelling. Kittle's personality is definitely outsized. The whole Joker thing that he does, he's clearly, unhinged, and I'm sure that'll make good TV. Kirk Cousins, Marcus Mariota, and Patrick Mahomes. Are they interesting people, or is what they do for a living interesting? Because that's my biggest issue with reality TV. Tom Brady is not an interesting person. Tom Brady's career and what he has accomplished is interesting. And I know it's probably just a me sticking point, but it's the same issue that I have with reality TV. I think reality TV largely is the reason that we are getting dumber as a society. Love is Blind is the greatest example that I hold up, and I know you love that show.
I don't love that show. But
you looked at me in the green room and you said, I love that show.
Megan loves.
No. Stand on it. Stand on it with as much force as you are willing to stand on your St. Peter's can't touch the Tennessee Vols in the first round situation yesterday. Go ahead with your chest.
Megan loves Love is Blind. She loves Love is Blind Brazil. Like, she loves the ones that they do in other countries. And it has been on. And I can't lie, I've gotten sucked into it. And I haven't watched the new episodes that have come out since watching with her, but I'm not going to lie. I've checked in with her. Like, so what happened to Jeremy? Like, what happened to Jeremy and Laura? Did they stay together, or did he, leave her
Not
after
Jeremy,
he saw...
Jeremy.
Yeah, it's so stupid the way his name is spelled. Look, it's terrible. Yes, it is, it is so disingenuous that they put people in a room where they can't see each other for a week and do these like dating rounds. And at the end, if you match someone, like you have to get engaged and they go to this remote location. It's stupid. It's bad and stupid. But that's the point of reality TV. It's bad and stupid, and people get hooked on it.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. It's why we're decaying as a society. Now.
But I don't understand. You seem to get like upset about these things. Like you came in like in a huff that how dare they put Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson on a show about wide receivers. It's like two of the biggest stars in the sport.
It's not that I'm upset by it. I just don't understand I don't understand what people are actually going to get out of it or what people are wanting out of it. Maybe it's a me thing. I'm admitting it's a me thing, okay? Because you don't have to be an interesting person to have an interesting career, right? Most professional athletes aren't that interesting. They've worked their entire life to be exceptional at what it is that they do. But when you talk to them about things going on in the world or the universe, Kyrie Irving's going to tell you that the world is flat. And I don't think that makes Kyrie interesting. I just think it makes him an insane person. And, what's the word? Somebody a troll. Like, does Kyrie Irving being a troll make Kyrie interesting? That's kind of my hang up with this. Is Patrick Mahomes actually an interesting person? Not really. He got a funny voice, and he's a great quarterback. But, like, as a human being, is there anything that really compels me there? No, probably not. You know who John Urschel is?
No.
John Urschel is a former Penn State offensive lineman who's drafted by the Baltimore Ravens a couple of years ago. John Urschel quit professional football because, one, brain damage, not something that he was interested in, participating in as something that was going to continue to happen, getting in a car wreck on every play. But John Urschel straight up quit professional football to go be a mathematician and professor at MIT. That guy's interesting. You know what I'm saying? Not just because he quit football to go about it and is in the world of education. He's got depth to him. It's not just football, which is fine. Like, if you just want football, to see the football players doing things around football and talking about football and going through their life with football, whatever.
Yeah, I think people just like getting sort of an inside look at these guys. And like Kirk Cousins, people came out of that thing loving Kirk Cousins.
Because he's not a bad guy. Like, he's a thoroughly likable guy. But, like, does that make Kirk Cousins interesting? You see what I'm saying? Like, I understand that I'm nitpicking.
You get so worked up about it.
Because they're not interesting. Like, people are treating it like it's some revelation. Hard Knocks is the greatest offender of this, where Hard Knocks went through an entire season with the Raiders with John Gruden and Antonio Brown and didn't show me any of the Antonio Brown stuff. You know why? Because it's a bad reflection on the league. I don't just want the polished Kirk Cousins version that makes everybody love him. I want to know all the different layers of these people. If you're going to pretend to give me access to these things, then give me access. Don't just paint me a rosy picture about Marcus Mariota and Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes and how great are they, and then call it a Netflix show. I'm done.
It's not that deep, buddy.
It is that. Or it should be that deep. Shouldn't it be? That's the problem. It's not that deep.
Yeah, okay. If people watch it and they enjoy it, like, who gives a damn? I don't understand your investment in
I
this.
do. Want more from your entertainment is my larger issue, and then we do a show like this, and it's hard for me to stand on anything. All right, I'm done with my rant. Now, let's talk about the Titans' backup quarterback signing. Let's talk about Mason Rudolph. How do we feel about it? What's the viability of him? Was he as actually good as he was presented to be down the stretch last year in Pittsburgh? The final hour is next.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. This morning, the Titans reportedly signed free agent defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day. The 28-year-old has 11 career sacks since coming into the league in 2018 and playing for the Rams, Chargers, and 49ers. Another free agency move by the Houston Texans, signing defensive lineman Mario Edwards, who played for the Tennessee Titans 2 seasons ago, was with Seattle in 2023. The men's NCAA tournament gets underway tonight with the first four. Wagner and Howard battle for the 16 seed in the West at 5:40, and Colorado State and Virginia play for the 10 seed in the Midwest at 8:10. You can hear the Westwood One coverage of those games after 3HL at 6 right here on The Zone. Tennessee's first-round matchup with St. Peter's is Thursday night at 8:20. Tennessee star and SEC Player of the Year Dalton Knecht named a first-team AP All-American earlier today. The Nashville Predators have won 12 of their last 14. They will look to make it a 15-game point streak tonight as they return home to host the San Jose Sharks, a 7 p.m. puck drop. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this Tuesday. Show's moving quickly. Thanks for hanging out with Lucas and myself. You can get in there if you want to. 615-737-1045 is the number. What is your position about the way that the Titans addressed things on the roster? Not the least of which is the backup quarterback. So they agree to terms with Mason Rudolph. It's funny, based on the reported deals of Mason Rudolph's contract, that he is, Lucas, the most expensive quarterback on the roster this season, including Will Levis and Malik Willis. Titans collectively at the position have just over a $6 million cap hit at quarterback. Between the three of them, Mason Rudolph accounts for half of that. Funny to me. Either way, not relevant to performance, but funny nonetheless. He comes from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Brian Callahan will have familiarity with him, having been in the AFC North for as long as he was. He comes in here to be a veteran backup for Will Levis in year 2. Now, the Steelers had plenty of quarterback issues, right? They've got Kenny Pickett. Then Kenny Pickett did Kenny Pickett get injured? Is that why Trubisky ended up in the lineup? Trubisky goes in. It's supposed to be the new look Mitch because he played a little better in Buffalo after he went from Chicago to the Bears, from Chicago to the Bills. Turns out Mitch Trubisky, very much the same Mitch Trubisky in Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett comes back in the lineup. Then, down the stretch, they end up going with Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph ends up being the best quarterback of the three. I don't think that he was good in Pittsburgh because the offense still had a lot of similar struggles, but he is good enough to help you win football games, which is the thing that the Titans most lack at the backup quarterback position. Malik Willis cannot help you win football games. He does more harm than he does good at this particular point. And this speaks to a larger issue with the state of the league. We talked about this yesterday. We ran through this exercise yesterday where we looked at all the different quarterbacks basically since 2018 that have been drafted in the first round. And shocking to no one, the guys that have had continuity in their offensive systems are the guys that have succeeded at the highest levels. Being Joe Burrow, being Josh Allen, being Lamar Jackson, also very, very talented unto themselves. But Trevor Lawrence is incredibly talented, and Trevor Lawrence has had not an easy time of it. Plenty of these quarterbacks are talented, but the geography, the coaching, the lack of adaptability around them, the lack of resources that are there when they arrive, because if you're picking at the top of the draft, you probably got a bad quarterback situation or a bad roster situation. The issue with more than anything for Malik is that the league does not allow for developmental quarterbacks, really, unless you are Josh Allen right? Mahomes was considered developmental. Would any of us look at Patrick Mahomes and consider him a developmental prospect, even though he landed in an ideal situation? Geography was his friend.
Yeah, he was developmental. He absolutely was. He had a whole year off.
Yes. But I think people are very quick to, and he brings up Alex Smith a lot, and that goes a long way. But we are not really in a place where that situation is allowed for. If you're picking a quarterback, he probably has to play. Now, in theory, that should have helped Malik Willis a lot. And then Tannehill got hurt, and he got thrust in there way too early. And the league does not allow for developmental quarterbacks who aren't ready to play.
And that was the Titans' intention going into last year with Levis, was it not?
For him to sit behind Tannehill.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was third string. Now, I think that what you saw from Mason Rudolph with the Pittsburgh Steelers last year, and it was interesting, I saw some headlines making the rounds from Dan Patrick's show this morning. Jerry Dulac, he's been in Pittsburgh forever. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, he's one of their beat writers. And what they were talking about is the way that the Steelers have cleared out the quarterback room to now bring in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. This is the quote. They cleaned out their quarterback room. If you would have asked probably anybody, whether in Pittsburgh or across the country, if Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, and Kenny Pickett would all be gone in a matter of 2 weeks, I don't think anybody would have taken that bet. We'll see if they upgraded that position. On paper, they definitely have. But he goes on, Jerry Dulac does, to say that basically what Mason Rudolph showed them is that Kenny Pickett was disposable. I find the idea curious because, and I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett and Will Levis are any kind of similar as prospects, but Levis is far from a proven commodity. He definitely belongs at the NFL level. There have been plenty of guys who have and who have faded very quickly. Carson Wentz and Jared Goff are great examples. Goff has rebounded nicely in a situation that better suits him. Wentz has become a journeyman since he was en route to being, he didn't win the MVP because he got hurt, but could very well have been an MVP the year that they went on to win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Mason Rudolph going in all of a sudden where Kenny Pickett is averaging with an offense is averaging 16.5 points per game. And worth noting that they did fire their OC in the middle of the season, which is not something that Mike Tomlin typically does, move on from coaches in season. So there was obviously more issues there than just Kenny Pickett. But when Mason Rudolph comes in and it makes it immediately look more like an NFL offense, it makes Kenny Pickett that much more disposable. And they, of course, move Kenny Pickett on. He goes to the Eagles via trade. And now the only two quarterbacks who were drafted by their original teams in the 2022 NFL draft are Malik Willis with the Titans and Brock Purdy with the Niners. Everybody else who was drafted is either out of the league or has been moved. I'm not saying that Mason Rudolph is going to come in here and push Will Levis. Will Levis is clearly and obviously the Titans' present and will be the starting quarterback once the season begins. But is there any school of thought given to the idea, much of what we've heard from around the league about Will Levis, which is that he still has a ton of work to do, that he's got tools to put himself in position to succeed, but that should Mason Rudolph have to play, he might be in a better position to operate at this point in time. Because it's not just the traits. It's not just the ability to have a rocket launcher arm and get throws to every part of the field. You have to be able to execute. You have to have game manager qualities to your game to be able to do this smoothly. And I have no idea what Will Levis is going to be in 2022. I just think Mason Rudolph is an interesting way to hedge your bets there.
I'm confused on what you mean by hedge your bets. Like, you mean if Levis struggles?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, like, you're not saying that there's any scenario where Rudolph would start over Levis.
No, not right now.
No, definitely not.
No. Of course not right now.
Like, they're living and dying with Will Levis.
Sure, but what if they don't want to die?
Yeah, I mean, the situation would have to get untenable.
Right.
For him to be benched for Mason Rudolph and it not be an injury thing. And if that's the case,
guys
then,
lose their jobs due to injury all the time, though. You know? Kenny Pickett just got sent out. And again, Kenny Pickett and Will Levis are not the same.
Will Levis is not going to lose his job to injury. Will Levis would lose his job to performance, not to injury.
What if the other guy comes? I'm not saying that Will Levis is outright in danger of losing his job. I'm just saying that this is an interesting way to hedge your bets when this guy just did it to two other players. Now, Mason Rudolph was not any kind of revelation in Pittsburgh last year. He did operate better. He did operate more at an NFL level. But for me, Mason Rudolph is replacement level starter quality, and that's all that you need behind Will Levis right now. He doesn't have to mentor Will Levis. He doesn't have to bring him along. They can be buddies and not